to tell you more about leading with an equity lens, please give a warm welcome to Sarabeth deNeui.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. Today, I stand before you as a parent and a colleague and a leader of color. Now, I don't stand here pretending that I know all of the answers or even all of the questions to the issues around race. But I would like to share with you some of my experiences and some of my reflection so that you can maybe see something from a different perspective. So when you are in a situation and you're in your building, that maybe when you are looking at an issue that you can see it through a different lens. So I am adopted. I am adopted from Seoul, Korea. My parents are both white. I have a younger sister who is also adopted from Seoul, Korea, and a younger brother who is white, but adopted locally. So normally, when I say, or when people learn that I have a sister who is also adopted from Seoul, Korea, the next question is, oh, is she your real sister? Is she your biological sister? And so that's just something to think about too. How many of you have ever been asked if your sibling is your biological sibling? So here's some of my information, but this picture from the 70s is a picture that has a lot of meaning to me. So this was taken at a courthouse on January 23rd in 1979. It was our naturalization day. So the day that my sister and I became American citizens. And in this picture, I'm just under 5 years old. And I didn't really know what was happening. I knew we were dressing up, had to sleep with the pink foam curlers in my hair. And my mom just simply said, well, this is the day that you will become an American citizen. But this picture has deeper meaning for me. This is when I have my first recollection of being racially aware that my ethnicity was different from others, even within my family. And so this picture, again, reminds me of that, not of being an American citizen. So I did tell you that I was a parent. So this is a picture of my daughter. She is now 10. But she, in this picture, was just under 5 years old, and we were fortunate enough to take a family vacation to Maui, Hawaii. And so upon our return, it was a couple weeks after we had come back home to the mainland. And my daughter had said to me, oh, Mom, I just miss being in Maui so much. And I said, I know, me too. What is it that you miss most about being there? And again, when I'm asking that question, I'm assuming she's going to say, oh, the beautiful weather, the beaches, maybe even recognize the quality time that we spent as a family there, right? So I'll never forget this. She turned to me and said, Mom, I miss being around people that look like me. Whoa. Imagine all that parent guilt that comes into this one statement from this young little face. So, taking into account my earlier recollection and about the age of this picture that my daughter was, we were both under 5 years old. So I assume that when these little faces, these new little kindergartners come into our building, that maybe that they are at the point they are racially aware that they are different from others. So how do you start to have those conversations with them to help them develop and be able to ask some of those questions? So Principal Cathale talked about relationships and building of those relationships. And we at Oakwood have a wonderful large Somali population in our building. And we've noticed that a lot of our families happen to live in one housing unit. So we took advantage of that. We, being my EL teacher and my achievement interventionist, go to that housing unit once a month and we hold meetings with these women. Now, this is a picture of one of our meetings, and I feel like they're with me today because if I weren't here with you, that's where I would be. And there is one woman in the group, her name is Rama, and she has told her employer, oh, I cannot work the first Friday of every month because she has taken upon herself to be the hostess of these meetings where she brews the tea and she makes the sambosas for us. And so we have these meetings where we talk about different issues, events, programs, and then they can come and ask us questions about anything. Now, how does that play out when I make a phone call home? They know my face. They feel comfortable coming into the building. They feel comfortable interacting with staff. Another one of the goals that we have in these meetings is to get them into the buildings to volunteer. And we know for some of them that they feel more comfortable with language and reading than others, so we provide opportunities that allows for everyone to be there. So we have some that volunteer in our media center shelving books and others that feel more comfortable being in our lunchrooms. And it works out just well. It's just great. So the other thing that I noticed being in this new building is that a lot of parents would drop their children off in the morning and then come and see our building secretary and say, oh, I need to talk to the principal. Does she have a minute? And I remember the first couple of times being totally caught off guard, going, oh my gosh, and I'm racking my brain. My anxiety level's up to the roof, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, did I forget to make a call? What happened, right? And so after having a couple of these meetings, it was that they just had questions about simple things, or they wanted to check in and see how their children were doing. And so, knowing this, I have now changed my schedule so that I don't have anything scheduled before 8 o'clock in the morning, just in case I do have a parent that stops in and wants to make a connection with me. And I've had at least one or two every week that will come in and visit with me. And it's incredible. Now, the other thing that I was thinking about is acknowledging and changing those barriers that we have in a school system. And there's some that are created by the district, but some are our own. So thinking about that, like I said, was not born here in the United States, and I got married, and I had every intention of changing my name. Well, 10 years went by, and I did not change my name legally until I received a call from our HR director saying, hey, Sarabeth, yeah, we're gonna have to go by your legal name, not your preferred name. I was like, ooh, I should probably change that. But the sole reason I never did that was because I wasn't born here. I knew of the extra steps that I had to take to go through that process and all the other documentation that I had to provide. And so I did go down to the Social Security office to do that, and I knew that I had the advantage of being able to speak the language, go online and look at all those forms so that I knew what to bring so I didn't have to come back a second day. I could transport myself there, and I had all of these other advantages there. I didn't have any barriers. But sure enough, I called my dad. I'm a grown woman in my mid-30s. Call my dad, my white dad, and say, hey, Dad, can you come with me? Just in case someone were to ask me a question and he could vouch for me. Crazy, right? So when thinking about that, I was thinking about our kindergarten registration process, and we opened our registration online in January, and we've done this for 3 years. But again, I'm trying to find that balance of looking at online services and conveniences as well as meeting people's needs. And so taking that time to meet with them and to help fill out the paperwork, to have translators there, to meet one-on-one, to answer questions, to get whatever else they need, to provide a similar experience for them. So these are, again, some of our strongest advocates are women. Well, I wouldn't be a good parent without mentioning my son. So my son is 12, almost 13, middle school. He's up to some middle school antics. However, I will tell you that he also is at that point where he is developing his racial identity. So again, I should have collaborated with Tim on this speech here, but he is developing his racial identity. And he had said to me, at my previous school, most of the kids were white, and so we never talked about race. But at this new school, we talk about it all the time. And I remember being pregnant with him and my husband and I talking about raising a biracial child. And my biggest concern was, in 5 years, when we register him for school, what federal racial category are we going to mark for him? And what if he doesn't identify with that category? Well, sure enough, that day came. And we had that great discussion. And my son was able to verbalize that he wanted to identify not as white, as we had marked him, but as Asian. So this summer we will be changing his federal race category. But I share this with you because I think about some of our students that are with us every day, and that they, our 4th and 5th graders, are starting to develop that. And what do we do to recognize that? And so I had a student, I was in a classroom, and they were doing a computer activity. When they completed, they could create an avatar. And I noticed that she had no problem putting together the eyes, the mouth, the ears. But when she got to the hair, she paused. And I just saw her scrolling through the different options. And she was a young female Somali student. So I went to her and I said, "Is there an option for a hijab?" She said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "Well, gosh, could we talk to your teacher about that? Do you think we could ask her and see if there's another program out there that might have that as an option?" Her whole demeanor changed because that was part of her identity. Sure enough, the teacher said, "Oh, of course," and the student even knew of a program that had that as an option. So when I look around Oakwood, I see these different images throughout the day, and my hope, not just for my students, but for my staff, is that we will continue to engage in questions and conversations around race and developing racial identities so that my students and staff can be the most successful that they can be, and that we can look at different issues through multiple lenses to really see people for who they are. Thank you.